Welcome to my channel. I love fashion, real estate, health, fitness, business, and all that good stuff. So welcome to the ride. Happy Friday, y'all. Listen, I just heard the best news. Ask a real estate agent what are their favorite 3 words, okay? My favorite 3 words: clear to close, okay? Clear to close. Do you know what that means? Ask any agent what are their favorite 3 words. Clear to close. You know what that means? No more underwriting. No more, inspection talk, appraisal talk. No more, we need your client to submit this. We're missing. It's done. It's done. It's time to go to the closing table, okay? I need to talk to y'all about this deal. Like, let's do a real estate story time. I could do one a day. Mind y'all, I'm only coming up on my 1 year in real estate in March. I could do a story time a day. Y'all would be so entertained, furious. Like, real estate takes you through so many dang emotions. Like, but I could tell y'all stories, like, from funny to sad. Like, it's a crazy industry. So either way, I just want to give y'all some I hope y'all can take tips from this, because this client, really great candidate to buy. Like, lender happy to have this client, and I just really want you all to understand, like, the process of home buying, how, what's the word, like, intricate it can be. The details, like, everything matters. And again, I'm sure most people know that buying a home is no small feat, but I don't think people really understand the process and the details that go into it. So we've been working on this particular deal since we're gonna close on Monday. We're supposed to close today. Whole nother story time, because I just had to get a little rowdy, like the professional rowdy, you know, the per my last email rowdy. But I will say this: we're closing on Monday. Good client. We started working on this deal the last week of October. Went under contract immediately. This client, he knew what home he wanted. He already had a pre-approval, so he called and he was like, "Hey, can you show me this house?" I showed him this house. That same day, he was like, "Let's get it under contract." That's a real estate agent's dream client. Somebody who comes pre-approved and already know what house they want, because it's a done deal. Or at least you think. Oh boy, at least you think. So again, we go through this process. We get under contract. We get the inspection. Inspection comes back, 2 small things wrong. The client is like, the seller's like, "Oh, we'll fix those issues." So it was like 2 things that came back. They decided to go ahead and fix those issues immediately. I'm in the process. At this point, due diligence is probably about 5 to 7 days. This is when you, as a buyer, have a chance to back out of the contract if you want to. But at this point, inspection looks good. The home is like built in 2018, so it's good. We didn't expect much to come back from the home. All is well. I'm like, this is about to be such an easy transaction. It's about to be good money that comes in. I wasn't even expecting this client. Boy, was I in for a rude awakening. So during this process, the client, 2 weeks from closing, so we go on a contract, we have the inspection. 2 weeks from closing, we're about to order the appraisal. A collection hit my client's credit report. And let me tell y'all something about collections. You want to catch stuff before it hits collections. Negotiate, call the company, say, "Hey, I can give you $100." Once a company takes payment, that's proof of payment plans. Like, they won't send you to collections after that point. Do what you can before it hits collection, especially if you plan on home buying. And let me tell you why. A collections can drop your credit 80 points. That is how many points he lost. It was like 78. So here's a client whose 700 credit score is doing well. Also, in the state of Georgia, we have Georgia Dream, which is a down payment assistance program. When you're using Georgia Dream, you get a free $10,000. They give you $10,000 towards your down payment. Great money, great program. If you qualify, absolutely you should in the state of Georgia. Like, and honestly, when you have over 700 credit score, as long as your debt to income is not super high, it's like most clients that I have get approved for it. Like I have one that just got rejected, but it's because her income was too high for Georgia Dream. But yeah, so good program to use. But Georgia Dream requires you have a minimum credit score. And I think that minimum is like 640, but if you have over a 700, then they don't really, they'll say, hey, it's worth the risk for this client if the debt to income is a little high, because we know that they're going to pay. So just think of home buying like that. Think of lending like that. It's just they're trying to assess risk, kind of like insurance. How risky is it that this person will not pay back this loan? How risky is it that this person might be in an accident? So think of it that way. They're just trying to measure, the risk of them lending you X, Y, and Z for whatever that may be. So because the credit score was high, nobody cared about debt to income. Well, he has a 700 credit score, and it dropped 80 points, and it put him below. And when he lost those points, he did not qualify for Georgia Dream, but he still qualified for a regular FHA loan. Now, because he still qualified, he would have still had to come out of pocket $10,000. And when you know you have free money on the table, you don't want to deal with it. You like, I want the free money, or let's just get out of this deal. So he decided to cancel, because in this phase, he could still get back his, his earnest money. So he got his $2,500 back. Boom, the deal was dead. I was okay because it sucked. But at the same time, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, this client is still great. Once he gets his points back, it's going to be okay. Well, he then goes, he really wants this home. So he calls the credit company, and the lenders are like, hey, we'll still give you the money. We'll try to work with Georgia Dream with you, if we can get that collection deleted. So he's like, fine. Mind y'all, this is no small collection. The collection was like $1,000. And to some people, maybe that's a drop in the bucket, but this is $1,000 on top of you trying to buy a home. You have your down payment, you have closing costs, you have everything else that are calculating to your expenses. So $1,000 inconvenience is $1,000 inconvenience. He said, forget it, I'll pay it. So he calls the debt collector. And by the way, it was like an old cell phone bill from like his son that he co-signed on, or his ex-wife, or something like that. So something that he really didn't even expect to happen. So again, this is why it's important to always know what's on your credit. I don't care how good or bad it is. Know what's on your credit, know what's about to hit, and stay on top of that stuff. Because a lot of times when you are about to purchase, you're like, oh, I'm not really worried about credit. I'm not planning on buying anything anytime soon. Stay on top of your stuff. Stay on top of your stuff, because it's stuff like that happens, and it's like, if you had been kind of paying attention to it, you'd have been able to catch it ahead of time. Just a tidbit there. So yeah, this is something that maybe he co-signed on. It was like a Verizon cell phone bill, AT&T cell phone bill. It was something crazy, like just something small, like a cell phone bill or something. So he goes, and the debt collector is like, hey, we'll delete it for you if you go ahead and pay in full. Listen to me. Come in close. When you're talking to a debt collector, always get it in writing. Always get it in writing. Those people are the real scammers. I don't care what anybody says. Get it in writing, because he pays off this $900 collection. It was 900 and some change, in the high 900s, by the way. Pays it off. So then he's like, hey, can you send me an email or something? Our lender is kind of wanting to, some kind of proof showing that I paid it off is going to be deleted so I can move forward. Yeah, sure, we'll send it. What's the email? He didn't get it. He called back. We called manager after manager. Finally, we got to higher up, and they were like, I don't know why he told you that. It's not going to be deleted. At best, he's going to get his points. He'll probably get at least 30 to 40 points back within the next 30 days, because it's a collection. It's just going to show as paid off. It's not going to show as deleted. I don't know why they told you that. So here we are at square one. Lost the deal. It's okay. About 2.5-3 weeks before, like Christmas time, before the holidays, my client gets his points back because he paid it off, and about 3.5 weeks passed. Now, luckily, this house, though it's new, it's still a townhome somewhere in the metro Atlanta area, and the home is still on, it's still available. So I call the agent. I'm like, hey, financing fell through. We're able to get financing this time. Everything worked out. My client requalifies for Georgia Dream, and let's make it happen. And the seller was like, amazing. We had a contract that we were about to accept, but Since we already know the situation with you all, we'll prefer to close because it'll be a quicker close since you've already done inspections and everything, and we've already made the repairs. Great, smooth process. So we get through the process again. We'll go back under contract. Everything is seemingly running smooth. The week before Christmas comes. The week before Christmas, guys. Week before Christmas gets here, and lo and behold, those points left again. But not as many as the last time. At this time, about 40 points left. The balance is still reporting as the full like 980 or whatever it was, because I don't know how the points end up coming back and then leaving. I'm sure a credit person can explain that to y'all, but I'm sure it's just the cycles of how reporting works. So after 60 days, for sure, it'll be, you'll have whatever substantial points you have, but that was probably just a preliminary, this is paid off, let's give some points back, and we're gonna have to wait. So we're trying to get in writing. We're trying to see, hey, is the lender going to just take the fact that it's paid off, the points are going to be back, will they accept it? And the lender's like, okay, we can try to work through it. And Georgia Dream is like, no, you're going to have those points back, or you're going to have some kind of proof showing that it's deleted. Of course you want that. Of course you do. So, okay. We're like, okay. So we just need to know the reporting cycle at this point. The day that they report is the day we're going to pull credit, is what the lender said. Because at this point, we're still soft pulling. We don't want to do a hard pull until we know that credit score is going to pull back at the 700 or above. So we're just trying to get reporting cycles. We called the credit card, not the credit card company, we called the cell phone company several times. We talked to different managers, promising to help, promising this and that. We talked to the debt collector. We're trying to get proof. We're trying to get report. We just need a date. Is it going to report on the 16th or the 21st? We just need a date to know when it's going to report. We wait another week. Now, closing is supposed to be the first week of January. So again, this is a week before Christmas. So at this point, now it's Christmas time. It's Christmas Eve. We waited a week because we're like, okay, worst case scenario, reporting is going to be at the end of the month. We get to the freaking Christmas Eve. I worked for at least 4 or 5 hours on Christmas Eve. Something was supposed to report. It wasn't reporting. Georgia Dream said no. The lenders are like, we can't even pull to finalize. We have other information that we need from him that we can't even see because we need to hard pull to tell you what he needs. So certain documents are going to take a week. Oh, I could just go into extreme detail about how difficult this started becoming, to the point where we all working on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So at this point, you're probably thinking like, well, what are the sellers saying? Because as an agent, as a buyer's agent, you always want to keep your buyer's interest at best at all time. That's your agreement with your real estate agent. So of course, I don't let the seller know everything. I keep them on a need to know basis, because all they care about is, are we going to close this loan or not at the end of the day? So I don't tell them anything that's going on until I have some answers. So at this point, I said, well, the reason we had to work on Christmas and Christmas Eve is because on Christmas Day, our financing contingency in. What a financing contingency is this. When you enter into a contract on a home, you have about 5 to 7 days to where you can back out of the contract as a buyer with no repercussions. The only other time you can do that is if you have a financing contingency. Well, it depends on what contingencies you have, but in this case, we only had a financing contingency. In this financing contingency, it just states that we have about 3 weeks to make sure financing is secured. Otherwise, anything after this day, the seller is going to get the earnest money and my client is going to lose the $2,500. That is the big issue. That is why the 24th and 25th were so important. It ended on the 24th, right? So we have to make decisions on this day. We don't know when credit is reporting, so we don't know if the points are coming back. Well, we know that the points are coming back. We need to know what the actual credit score is, though. So we need the date. We don't have that date, so we could be looking at January. We don't know when the heck is going to happen. We can't get the rest of the documents for the loan process. We could have. That's another story. But they can't clearly see everything to let us know exactly what we need. So it's a very frustrating position. And now my client is like, wow, This is the second time I've been under contract. I'm at risk. So he has a decision. Am I going to lose my $2,500 or am I going to try to proceed with this contract? And I don't know how it's going to work out. And the truth is, we were all very confident. We're like, it's going to close. You're gonna get your points back at minimum. You may not qualify for the Georgia Dream. We know you don't want to pay the extra $10,000, but we may be able to do some in-house down payment. We're just trying to work it out, but we're like, it's gonna work out. It just may not work out exactly when you want. But he's like, man, I'm trying to move out of this apartment. Like, I'm renting right now, and literally, when I tell y'all his mortgage, he got a good interest rate and everything. So his mortgage is about, they were trying to quote him on his home, and his mortgage is like $600 a month cheaper than what he would be paying in rent. So he's ready to get the heck out. He's like, I'm ready to get this house. I have the money for my down payment. Like, I'm ready to move so I can cut my rent down and actually own a home, have more space, and pay less money. Like, it only makes sense. So he's just at this difficult decision. Like, what do I do? He texted me and he was just like, let's cancel it. And that was Christmas Eve. So I went to Christmas Day kind of sad. I was just like, Lord, I'm supposed to be traveling at the beginning of February. That was supposed to be my money for Dubai. Very selfishly, like, because in my mind, this dude gonna close on this house. Like, I don't know if we're gonna close in January or February, but I know I go to Dubai in February and I need that money. So that was pretty much, and I did feel bad for him too, because it's like, I just know, like, you're like, man, I'm doing everything right. Like, I have the credit, I have my down payment, I've been submitting information every time they call. Like, what else do I need to do to make sure that this closes? And I know that's frustrating as a buyer, and so it's my job to just try to make that process as smooth and easy as possible. And I know, again, it's not easy. Like, I get it. So that happens. He decides to cancel. Well, the seller calls me back the next day. And the seller's like, on Christmas, by the way. So the seller calls on Christmas and they're like, look, we really don't want to lose the contract. We'll work with you all. However, we're not giving you the $2,500 back. So either you can stick with your cancellation, or we'll work with you as long as it takes, even if we have to close in February. We're willing to do that because we've already worked with you all so far. We will work with you to make sure it closes, but you're gonna have to give us something. And that's fair. I was not mad at that agent when she said that. Like, she was very respectful, and she was like, look, I'm looking out for my client too. They need something if this does not work out, because now somebody offered 2 weeks after you all and we turned down that contract. So I need to make sure that I'm looking out for my interest, my client's best interest. Very fair. Can't say that I would do anything differently. So my client pretty much is like, okay, just give me some time to make a decision. We went through with the cancellation. So 2 days after Christmas, I just told her, well, let me talk to my agent, and let me talk to my client, and let me give you a response. So 2 days after Christmas, he's like, yeah, Nyree, honestly, I'm not up for just losing any more money. I'm paying off collections. I already had to pay off 2 other credit cards just to keep my approval as high as I wanted, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting here like, man, I get it. And I'm about to make a long story short, because I could really go into this. I'm already probably like close to 20 minutes in, and I'm not, y'all don't even know the half of stuff that's happening. So I'm about to wrap it up, but I just want y'all to understand the intricacies of like just these little things that happen throughout a real estate transaction that can prolong your buying date. And it's not to scare you, it's just to inform you of how things like just credit can prolong a transaction for months at a time. So he decides he doesn't. Well, the minute he's deciding, I'm literally at Panera Bread typing up the cancellation letter. I'm like, okay, hi, he's decided to move forward. The lender calls me. She goes, hey, great news. I've pulled up credit and the points are back. I'm like, wow, is that not God? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's get it closed. Let's get it closed. So we get the transaction back. And everything is good. Okay, we decide to move forward. A week and a half goes by, everything is smooth. We have to move closing date, that's fine. We get to a week before we're about to close. Hey, as we were underwriting, something else is wrong with this file. Long story short, there are some IRS payments that have to be paid. And while he's paying them, and for order to qualify for Georgia Dream, not us, in order to qualify for Georgia Dream, he has to have 3 consecutive payments, and he's only at like 1 or 2. So we would have to wait another month or 2 in order for him to qualify for Georgia Dream again. So we did all of that just to qualify, and still Georgia Dream is like, oh, but this. And again, you're probably thinking, well, why didn't they just tell you that up front? This is why the underwriting process is important, because they didn't know this up front. They don't know that until you start submitting information for your file, which is why not being able to pull that credit was prolonging the process, because at that point, when the credit comes back, you gather all the documents, you send it over. They're like, hey, we're reviewing. This does not add up. Like, something's not adding up. We have to have those. So Georgia Dream is like, we're like begging them. We're like, can we just show that he's on the payment plan? Like, the payment plan is here. He can make this month's payment, and then the next one, by the time we close, like, like, what's the, like, no. So here we are back where we started 6 weeks ago, where we don't have another $10,000. And he has come in pocket $10,000. And my client was like, look, we're making calls. This is a 2-day process. Everybody's stressed the heck out, because we're like, man, we're supposed to close next week. And pretty much, my client was like, only thing I can come up with is an extra $5,000. Like, I don't have anything else to give. That's how much. So I'm gonna give y'all perspective. His down payment went from $3,800 to around $1,300 without Georgia Dream. That's an extra $10,000, and it was like a little 13 and some change, stuff we're trying to. So I'm like, okay, I'll waive my fee. That'll save you some money at closing, because I'll still get paid commission, but we have like real estate fees and stuff. So I'm like, at this point, let's just figure out what we can do. I waive my fee, and we started trying to figure out what we could do. When we got down to the bottom of it, y'all, we still were about an extra maybe like 4,000 or 5,000 short. So our back is against the wall, and at this point he's like, I'm over it. He was like, every day they're calling me, hey, this credit card, hey, this bank statement, hey, do you need a tax letter, hey, this information's not right. And that's how it is during the process, and I want y'all to be prepared for that if you want a home buy. When they start going through your file, listen, get very uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. They're going through every piece of finance, because these people are giving you $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. They're giving you this money, so they want to know exactly who they're getting into bed with. They want to know exactly who they're getting into business with. And just think about it. If you were loaning someone that type of money, you would want to know exactly what you're dealing with. So, that process is already very tedious. And they're calling every other day, trying to get this, trying to get that. He's having to submit, he's having to do so much. He's having to pay this off, pay that off, pay this down, pay that down. And he's just like, oh my God, it's just too much. And now I'm still 4,000 or 5,000 short. I don't have anybody I can call to get this extra money. So here we are. Like, now I've lost 2,500 because we're in a deal now. We're past our appraisal contingency. I mean, not appraisal, we're past our financing contingency. So I'm $2,500 lost. I paid off down a lot of this stuff, and I have nothing to show for it. Everybody's frustrated. The lender's been working, the seller's been working with us, I've been working. Like, we're all just like, this is just such a stressful transaction. We don't really know where to go. We don't know what to do either. And so I just said, listen, at the end of the day, we can't let a transaction fall because of $4,000 or $5,000. So I called the seller and I'm like, hey, we're gonna have to cancel it unless you're willing to give us the $5,000. That's when those negotiating skills come in. So she's like, hey, the seller said no, they're not giving you any more money because we've already given you a lot in closing costs, because I negotiated very high because I saw that it was on the market. So I was like, give us a lot in closing. Like, I want my client to pay least as possible. And I understood that was fair. It was about $3,000 over what I normally ask for clients, because I was being strategic. Like, I'm looking at the property. I'm trying to do what's best for my client, and you all agreed. So now I need another $4,000 or $5,000. And I'm just like, when you really start thinking about it, when you think about negotiation and strategy, you're like, man, these people are not about to let a deal fall through for $4,000 or $5,000. That's what I was banking on. So she said no. So before I even told my client, she said no. I just wanted to wait the night out and see what would come of it. Like, are they really going to let it close? So the client was like, no. So I waited about 30, 45 minutes. I text back and I said, okay. Well, I said, well, this is so unfortunate, but we're going to have to cancel. I'll have the $2,500 wired to you by close of business tomorrow. I got to call you immediately. Well, we still don't want to give you the money, but can we close in February? We even willing to close in March. I'm like, you're willing to push closing out another 60 days as opposed to just giving us 4 or 5,000. Like, come on, y'all are still getting a lot of money from this deal. And I get it. You're looking out for your seller. But at the end of the day, our backs are against the wall. Because at this point, I'm sending you proof. Like, they go through the funds. They can see how much funds the client has. They can see that. So I'm telling you, they're telling you the client has X, Y, and Z to close. They don't have anything more. Anything more is going to require more underwriting. That's going to prolong it. This is a headache. Let's not let this happen. So I said, okay. I said, well, I can call and see, but I doubt it's going to happen. So we're honestly probably just going to have to close. We're going to have to just cancel, and I'm sorry. I didn't know how it was going to work out, y'all. I was so worried. I'm like, oh my God, we're about to lose this deal. Like, what in the world is going on? And so 2 hours later, so I'm at the gym. I go to the gym. I leave. I'm trying to relieve stress. I'm just trying to figure out what can we do to save this deal. At like 8 or 9 o'clock that night, she texts me. She said, hey, talk to the client, and I just want to let you know that we're going to give you the $4 or $5,000 so we can get this transaction closed next Tuesday. And that next Tuesday was this Tuesday. And so, yeah, it all ended up working out. And you might be asking, why did I say happy Friday when we were supposed to close on Tuesday? It's because closing got pushed again for underwriting. We lost the Georgia Dream, and everybody has been willing to work through this process. We made it through. It's all good. But now it's just little small stuff like making sure that the letters are right for tax, and to make sure accounts are all settled, make sure closing funds are there. Like, he was using gift funds. You have to verify accounts for that go towards closing. So it's just little stuff that happens, but everybody's a little more at ease because at least we know we're freaking closing. Like, at least we know everybody's kind of doing their part to make sure that this transaction is going to close. And so yesterday, we got another message late at night, something that should have been called weeks ago. And this is the part that's tedious and frustrating. And it's like, so if y'all are just asking for this yesterday and at night and in the evening too, we're still not going to be able to close on Friday. Like, what in the world is happening? So he got the documentation sent over last night, and so we're supposed to close at 1. Unfortunately, it did not happen, but we just got the email that we are officially clear to close. So we scheduled for Monday at 1 p.m. And that was a long story short with a lot of details missing on how just something as simple as a collections pushed an entire process back. We were supposed to close in November. Like, yeah, we would have closed early, especially if we know we had our Georgia Dream. We would have definitely closed a lot earlier. So yeah, that's some real estate story time. It's rough. And again, when I tell you I left out a lot of details, of course, because of clients privacy and information, I can't give out every single thing, but that was just the gist of it. And I want to touch on something else, but it's probably not appropriate to right now, just because I think just the political climate of the world and how. But I will say this: if you are a person of color and you are going into lending, you need to do your part of making sure everything is as in order as possible. And I don't say that as a form of like, the truth is, we just know that there are very discriminatory practices. We know that redlining exists. Like, we know that those things exist when it comes to the home buying process. So the best thing you could do is put yourself at a very, very good advantage when it comes to home buying, because some of that stuff you'll never be able to prove. You never know. So your best bet is just to be as prepared and as efficient as possible. That way, if something comes back and it's a little off, we can say, something's wrong with this. It's y'all. Like, let's call it out. But some things are so hidden and so sprinkled, you'd never be able to catch it. You'd only be able to maybe feel it. And so, yes, get your ducks in a row if you're ready to buy a home. That was a real estate story time. Again, that was not to scare y'all, but to tell y'all, just, find an agent that you trust, because at every step of the way, I can honestly say my client was like, If Nyree says let's go, let's go. Even when it came down to him deciding to lose his money or not, he was like, what do you think? And I don't ever want to make those kind of decisions to people. And I just told him, and again, you have to work with people that you trust and that have integrity, because I'm real. If you're gonna lose your money and I don't think you're gonna close alone, I'm just gonna tell you straight up, I would say just this is on you, because you very well may lose your money and we very well may not close. And so again, work with somebody that you trust. That is extremely important. Do your best to keep your ducks in a row. Do your best to do your best at whatever it is that you can control, and just understand that it's all a process, and you're not going through anything that anyone else don't go through during this process. I find that a lot of new buyers come in, they're asking for this. Why are you asking for this? I was talking to one of our lenders this morning, and she said that she has a closing on Monday, and her client was upset because they asked her to wire the money on today. And I was just like, why would they be upset about that? The closing is on Monday. And they're like, oh, why can't I just wire it on Monday when the closing? And it's like, so different banks have different guidelines. And you just realize how a lot of information is just not spread when it comes to home buying. It's like it's a surplus of information, but people are not really taking it in, internalizing it, understanding it, and comprehending it to the point where they can apply it when they go through the home buying process. So I'm currently working on a course right now that's going to be released on my website very soon, hopefully within the next 30 to 45 days, to go through that process of home purchasing and what you need to do, because it's small stuff like that that can become like an irritation, because it's like the client's irritated because they just don't understand the process. Whereas let's say he would come to that closing and try to wire that money. Oh, you very well can wire the money on Monday, but guess what? You're going to be taking an extra 2 to 3 hours out of your day because that money has to clear. Or let's say you have the kind of bank that they say, well, wires, we're going to take 72 hours. You want your keys on Monday and that money doesn't clear until Wednesday. Now your closing is pushed and you're upset. So we're just looking out for your best interest, but it's our job to explain how those things work. So ask the questions if you don't understand. Get the knowledge. Like, you're not going to be as informed as a real estate agent because we do this every single day. You're not going to be as informed as a lender because we do this every single day. We underwrite, well, I'm not a lender, but lenders underwrite so many different types of loan. They've run into so many different types of situations. And so do real estate agents. So it's impossible for you to know everything we know, but it's not impossible for you to be as informed as possible. And I really, really want that for everyone, for any client that works for me. Ask the questions, be informed. Like, if it's something you're confused about, if it's something you just absolutely are like, I need to know, I need to ask Nyree this, or I need to ask my lender or my agent this, ask the question. We're going to inform you. It's our job to educate you, but just understand that there's a process. So when we're asking you to do stuff, people have this thing where it's like, oh, agents are so shady, they're in it for themselves. A lot of times, especially if we're asking you to do something early, it's to protect you. It's so that you don't have to go through the stuff that we're going through now, so that you're not a day of your closing where you're supposed to be excited and celebrating and you're like trying to send information the day you're closing. Because if you would listen and trust the person that you're working with, you should trust their expertise, trust that they're telling you to do the right things. And if you do, well, when the time comes for you to close, you can have a happy closing, because the process is already probably going to stress you the heck out. So yeah. Of course, I've been talking for 30 minutes. Wow. Every time I try to do like a little mini vlog, it always ends up long. So yes, real estate story time. It's closing day. I'm just honestly, I'm so excited for my client. He deserves it. He's worked hard. He's a great candidate. He has a great job. He has a great credit score. There's no reason that this shouldn't have closed, or there's no reason he should be left out of the home buying industry when it's something that he genuinely wants to do. So yeah. If y'all have any real estate questions, let me know. I'm excited. Maybe I'll post some closing content. I don't know. But yeah, y'all have a good rest of y'all's day, and I will see y'all next time. Toodles. So, have you subscribed yet? Click that button and tell a friend to tell a friend.